Cardi B, this little lady who, for better or worse, everyone and their mom literally is talking about. Let me tell you something. I have met Cardi B. Yeah, everyone's talking about her. I have met her. And she is not what you would think. I was so surprised. She was sort of like, kind of like mellow and a little shy, a little quiet to herself, right? And here she is being painted as this overtly sexual, rambunctious figure, you know, like exacerbating this culture war. And it got me thinking, right? What does that say about women, about entertainers, about sexuality, about empowerment, so to speak? Well, that was a little stimulation, pun intended, for what we are going to get into today to get you thinking, right? After this Grammys WAP performance that stopped the world in its tracks. So let me introduce you to my guest. We're going to get into this because I know after my last episode, you guys were like thirsty for more, okay? So we have Bobby Jones here of The Buzz. Everyone say hi to Bobby. We got Kiyra Lynn. You've seen this MILF before. She's my resident MILF of Hollywood First Look Features. Now, these are both entertainment pros, right? In the entertainment journalism space, have met musicians, rappers,
yes,
entertainers. Yes. So let's get into this. All right. So people were like, I've had like the most empowered of women be like, listen, this isn't it. This isn't it. Okay. Are we confusing freedom of expression with empowerment? Was this empowering for women, guys?
You're asking the wrong ass
person. Bobby, I'm getting to you. Don't worry. I'm getting to you, my friends.
I thought that when I heard that the Grammys were going to put on this performance and they were, you know, completely saying it's the first time that, you know, this song has been performed on television. Obviously, we know why. I thought it was interesting. And
it wasn't the first time, no. It was the first time they were performing together.
Oh, performing it together for the first time. But like, and, you know, obviously hearing that, I was like, well, for obvious reasons. And, you know, I've seen the video, I've heard the song out of pure curiosity. And I wanted to see how they were going to pull it off. That was really what I was more curious about. Whether or not, I'm not here to judge people's art. You know what I mean? Like, people find different ways to express themselves, and some of it I'll be okay with, and some of it I may not agree with. But, you know, is it my opinion? What is, let them do what they want. You know what I mean? Like,
isn't it interesting that I feel like no one's talking about this? Cardi B has said, I never said that this was supposed to empower women. Isn't that kind of crazy? Because that's what we've made it into. She's like, I never said it was supposed to. And that's what this like battle has really become about. Like, does or doesn't it?
It's the cancel culture diving in and creating a narrative that wasn't there. Just like when they try to make someone well, you're a role model. I never said I wanted to be a role model. I just wanted to just do what I do. You guys said I should be a role model, but I'm not a role model. Just like when R. Kelly was not a role model. But then he does I Believe I Can Fly. Everyone thinks he's like, oh my gosh, he's such a good person. And he did this amazing song. I never want to be a role model. You know, I'm sitting there, you know, urinating on young girls. So it's not so the thing is, when she said that, you got to understand, Cardi B didn't come into the industry through the front door. She came in through the back door. And because of what she does and what she says got her where she is, she's not going to change anything. She's just doing what she does.
And to your point, Bobby, it's kind of my thing in the beginning, right? Like how she's in person, I found she's like this kind of reserved, like, can we separate the performer from the person? And to your point about being a role model, like she doesn't even let her own daughter listen to her music, which isn't that fascinating? I mean, Kiyra, you made a comment that your daughter Kennedy like walked out of the room, right, when they came on. Like, is it, I personally feel like it's not their responsibility to be a babysitter, right, to be a role model.
Absolutely 100% agree. You know, I actually let her sit in the living room while it was going on. Like, you know, And when she heard that they were performing, she was like, uh-oh. And she immediately put her hands over her ears and was like, I don't think I can watch this. And I said to her, you know, they're going to put it on television and it's going to be up to you whether or not you're comfortable, you feel comfortable that you're going to watch it, because, you know, the way that I parent my 11-year-old is going to be completely different about, you know, the ways other parents may. And the thing is, she already knew what the song was. She already knew what it means. So obviously she's getting, you know, she's getting her information somewhere. And, you know, we had conversations about it, you know, how did you, you know, how do you know about the song? She's like, well, I felt like I heard about it on YouTube. You know, she's 11, you know, kids are going to get into things. And I don't know, for me, it's, I'm completely open to having a conversation. And if she's curious about it, but, you know, we also have this rule in the house because she goes to Catholic school. I said, if you're going to get in trouble for it at school, it doesn't belong here. So you know, until you're out of Catholic high school and into college, use that as your barometer of what's, you know, what's decent and what's indecent.
Okay.
What you can get away with and what can't you?
Let me point this out. So number one, you're not wearing it, although you are wearing a ravishing Cancel Me Baby hat, which I love, but you don't have your WAP shirt on.
I don't. Said, I do have one.
You have one, you don't have it on. But with that said, you have it, I see it behind you. It says, does that say feminist?
It does.
Okay. So for people, like people have said to me, right? We've worked so hard to regain the respect of men. Like this just isn't feminine. Okay, Bobby, you're rolling your eyes. Hop in. Is this feminist? Not feminist? Is this backtracking?
Again,
also,
it's an attack, and it's an attack on a person. Because again, if this was Britney, if this was Madonna, if this was Taylor Swift, they've worn far less clothes and almost the same outfit that those girls had on, and no one said nothing. Britney and Madonna's kiss has been replayed around MTV forever and ever and ever. So then they get mad and assimilate. This is not the first time they performed this. This is the first time that they let it go a little uncensored, and it's not their fault, because when they tried to do it on these other award shows, in other words, don't wear this, wear that, cover this up and everything else. So they've had that. So when they said you don't have to cover up anything, you can't blame the artist. The artist asks, and either you say yes or no, or it doesn't go on. This is not the first time they performed this, and they performed more tamer versions of it. So because someone gave them permission to do it and they got away with doing it, doesn't mean that it's their fault. You know, so then you have all these FCC people calling in. It's like, oh, it's like the TV wouldn't have rolled. They would have shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
They would have shut it down. And that's the certain thing that we have to look at. It's like, it's not their fault. They ask, and it's either someone's going to say yes or no. So when someone says, yes, you can do what you want to do, then it's not their fault. And they don't have to respond. You know, it's like I said, it's art, and it's only art when people find it convenient.
You know, I remember seeing a clip of, I don't even remember what Madonna piece it is.
Yes.
You know, she's full on like grabbing her, probably
like a virgin.
Old MTV Music Awards.
Like a virgin. It was like a virgin.
That was like
a virgin. But there was another,
like a prayer. Like a prayer. I'm sorry, like a prayer.
Because at the time, several times, and you know, I don't recall what the backlash was, but you know, I just remember. I remember that being indecent for the time. You know, this is no different.
So with that said, I'm going to hop on that because I've been having this conversation a lot, and this isn't me talking. This is somebody said, yeah, but you know, with say Janet Jackson, I've even said like Nicki Minaj, Anaconda, that was a couple of years ago. Like, where was this energy then? Right. Britney, Bobby, to your point, Madonna. Okay. But this is what somebody said to me, right? That they say that is sexy. This is raunchy. So what's the line? Like, who's the gatekeeper? Bobby, you're shaking her. Who's the gatekeeper who's going to go, this is this, this is that? Like, where's the line?
There is no gatekeeper. It all depends upon the person that's the loudest. In the adult film industry, there's two sets of girls. There's girls that are filmed a lot that everybody wants to watch. And then there's girls that say, oh, they film too much. But who makes that decision? Who makes that decision? So the same thing is like between sexy and raunchy is it's whoever screams the loudest is the person who gets the most attention. Back in the day, Black love scenes were not shown in movies for longer than short clips because they were deemed raunchy. Who said they were raunchy? It's the same love scenes that were in other movies. but they either were cut short or they weren't shown at all, or they got the threat of having an NC-17 rating if you didn't take it off. Mm-hmm. So again, it's an attack on a certain culture and on a certain and certain people of color out of convenience, whether you want to or not.
So if two white girls performed but did the exact to a T, Kiyra, you're thinking about this, would it get the same backlash, hype, reaction?
You know, I really have to think about that. I really feel that it wouldn't be as controversial as it is today if it was two white women. You know, it was making me think about, you know, Jennifer Lopez and Shakira performing
at the stripper pole on the Super Bowl.
At the stripper pole.
Sure.
And
I thought about that too.
Like I remembered like being in awe in watching their performances. And then I was shocked to like see all the backlash on social media. You know, obviously, you know, I'm way more liberal than, you know, most of America, and I saw absolutely nothing wrong with it. But then it was just, you know, I'm thinking, well, is it because it's two, you know, Latino women that are, you know, on this big stage?
Or how about Miley with the whole finger? Remember that whole thing? And honestly, the reason I wanted to talk to you guys about this today is because I was like, in my last episode, I'm like, I was all for this. I saw nothing wrong with this. And I even had like loyal, dedicated followers who know I posed in Playboy, who know I always talk about sex. And they, like I said in the beginning, they're like, this isn't it though. This isn't it. So it started to me. I was like, am I just desensitized? Like, am I, you know what I mean? So before we pivot, Kiyra, I want to bring it back to before, like to you, were you empowered by this personally?
I wouldn't say that I was empowered by it. You know, my empowerment comes from myself and what I achieve in my life and what boundaries I do or don't place on myself. And like I said, I was curious. I sat there and watched this performance with an 11-year-old that was like this and would turn her head when she would feel that she felt it was too uncomfortable. And then my mom in her 70s, like 3 generations watching this, and, you know, to hear my mom's commentary in the back, you know, and she is like completely conservative, you know, completely to the right and conservative Catholic, and to hear her commentary, you know, was not surprising, but she sat and watched it. I wasn't offended and I wasn't empowered. How's that? Like I could take it.
I don't think it was supposed to be for empowerment. Everything doesn't have to have a message of whether it be power. It's just a message. And whatever you take from it, everything doesn't have to have a message. Just like we put narrative on any situation. If I got robbed by a white guy, the police have to sit there and figure out the narrative. Was this a normal robbery? Was this a hate crime? And they have to sit there and go over it and take long thoughts about what's going on with this. Because again, it's like depending upon the narrative, depends upon what you put on there. To put on, is it sexy? Is it too sexy? Is it empowering women and everything else? It's not meant to empower anything. It's just a song.
Well, to your point, Bobby, because I think you brought up porn, right? And sex work. And the reason I'm passionate about this is because I know people, like I know a very well-known porn star. I know people on Only who do sex work, and they are like the most in control, autonomous, control of their life people. So that's why I feel like really strongly about this, because I hate the narrative that it's like, oh, they're not in control, they're victims. Like, look, if that's how they want to use their body and make money, like who are we to say who's stopping them?
Cardi B is an ex-stripper. She makes no qualms about it. And another thing you got to figure out, Cardi B is uncancelable, because then if you took everything away from Cardi today, she wouldn't care that much. I mean, she would miss it, but she wouldn't care that much because she's used to coming from nothing and everything else. And she's used to being in these positions of being talked about and gawked at, from even working in strip clubs and actually having to, you know, be with men to survive and take care of her family.
It's a weird line for me because obviously I have a young daughter, and you know, I want her to be as open to the world, you know what I mean? And make those decisions and I let her make that decision on whether or not she was comfortable to watch. you know, not all parents are going to agree with me there, but, you know, considering that I know that she knew about this song ahead of time, I would rather have her in my presence and experience this than have her go behind my back, you know, and you know, have questions and then not be able to come to me and ask me, you know what I mean? Because I feel that is more of the danger than her being exposed to it. You're going to get, she's going to be exposed to porn. She's going to be exposed to men hitting on her when she, you know, and it making her feel uncomfortable. It's like, I need to make sure that, you know, that I don't want to use the word desensitized, but she knows what she is going to be approached with when she goes out into the real world and not be in some sort of bubble.
Right. The only group of people that are stronger than the cancel police and the cancel culture is the narrative police and the narrative culture, because then they put it out there to make it wrong or right. And depending upon what side of the fence you're on or who screams the loudest, that's when people follow. And we're spending too much time talking about something that was just which was something that they just did. They knew the song was raunchy. They knew the song was nasty. Just like when I was on the dance floor and I remember the first time I heard the Whisper song, I was like, that person needs to go to jail. That's a rape song. They need to go, you know, but then I'm still dancing to it and everything else. But again, it's like, there's certain things that have gotten through the center police that people don't understand became a pop culture thing until the narrative police puts their foot down on it. Everyone was saying it from the windows to the walls and skeet, 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 skeet. That's the nastiest thing I ever want to hear in my entire life is skeet, 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 skeet.
I was dancing to that. I was dancing to that when I was Kennedy's age, like having a good time. We're going to get into we're going to get into the male double standard, but let's talk about the narrative, okay? Because on Cancel Me Baby, I call out all sides. No one is safe. Like, I'm coming for your ass. And part of this situation, you talk about narratives, Bobby, is it never in my wildest dreams did I think that these like news anchors would be talking about Cardi B's WAP. Like, here's my issue, right? Both sides have their narrative, okay? You have the left like praising this like it's God's gift. You can't even critique it. Then you have the right acting like Cardi B's burning down the earth, right? Which both are like in their thing. But here's where both are hypocritical, which I can't. The right is all about free expression, right? They hate cancel culture, but I guess this doesn't count because they're going after this again, like it's so abhorrent, okay? But then you have the left, and this is what is confusing, because the left is very much like, treat women, don't you dare objectify, right? Taking away Lola Bunny's sexualization. Don't treat us with respect. Don't sexualize. Don't use the male gaze. Treat us like men with respect, right? But then you have this, which is glorified. And to me, that's at odds. Like, to me, it's like you can't pick or choose when you can and can't objectify women.
It's out of convenience. And like you said, like you went with the Lola Bunny, and there was a lot of things that at certain time periods and that worked. And that doesn't say they were right at that time period, but then you look at situations where we are now, where you're canceling. I always said Pepe Le Pew was a rapist. I always said he was an opportunist and a rapist. I've been saying that for years. And then when they canceled him, I'm like, yo, you know, but that's still part of our cartoon. But then you look at kids and they emulate that. So I do understand that. I do understand it. So I do understand that there is a need for some type of police to do that. But then still, to pass judgment, there's a judgment police. There's a censor and a person of standards at the Grammys that said you could do this, do that, say this, say that, 5-second button, just in case you curse, all that, everything else. It passed all that. Because then again, I've seen that same performance done much more tamer. I've seen the body, yaddy, 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 done much more tamer. I've even seen them have the little ties around. I've seen it done on SNL. They had the little wrap around it and everything else. So then there are people that stand up and say it, but the Grammys let them go ahead and do their thing. So why blame the artist and not blame the organization?
See, I blame them. Before you hop in, Kiyra, I want to get your take as a woman. Like, my issue is women who will be like, this is amazing, this is so great. Like, right, I posed in Playboy, and even in the piece I wrote that went with it, I even say, I know I'm objectifying myself for you to look at me like a sex object, but I'm not okay with it. I'm not saying Cardi B's doing this, but women do, is then turning around and going, how dare you hit on me or comment on my look or look at my boobs? It's like, well, you can't have it both ways, girl. Then wear a paper bag.
I agree with you. If this is the thing, Cardi put herself out there. We all know what her story is, right? Like, and personally, I respect that story. I like Cardi, you know.
Same.
But if she were the one that were to turn around and all of us and say, "Oh my gosh, don't objectify me, don't look at me in that manner," that would obviously be
Hypocritical.
But as an artist, this is what she stands for. And if you are going to watch this performance, if you're going to choose to watch this performance, you know what you're going to get into bed with. Plain and simple.
But
you know
what
what I mean?
about
Hold on, let's take it to even another level.
Yeah.
To show how bad the narrative police are. Our former first lady has more naked pictures of herself on the internet than Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion combined.
Well, that's where the right is hypocritical, because that's where the right is hypocritical. And my thing too, like I saw, and talking about this whole conversation, I saw someone be like, Robin Thicke, when he did Blurred Lines, got heat. Because Bobby, you're nodding your head, right? Because he objectified women, how he sung about it. And at first I was like, well, there's a point, because if you're a woman doing it, right, you're allowed, it's on your terms. But this is again where I'm like, you can't have it both ways. Why can't a dude do it? And it blurs into real life. I've had guys, Bobby, I don't know if you've experienced this. I don't know what your marital situation is, but I've had guys be like, I don't know how to approach women. Can I say they look nice? Can I objectify them? That's where I feel like it gets confusing.
You can't say anything anymore. I know in my lifetime, I've probably let the one go 10 or 15 times based upon the fact that I was fearful of approaching them. And even to give you one small anecdote, I'm sitting out in front of a practice studio, and it's me and this bodyguard, and we're just talking. We just met, and this woman walks by with a handful of donuts, and her skirt is in her stockings, so her butt is all to the world of Hollywood. We were fearful of how to approach her to let her know that. We tried to let her know, to try to get her attention, and she started walking faster and running. Then we tried to wave her down, and she still walked fast and everything else. And we to the point we gave up. It's like, she's going to really get a cold awakening and everything, as soon as she turns that corner, because she's going to be on the popular Hollywood strip. And, there you go, for her butt to show her the world. And then we ended up talking another hour later, still trying to figure out what we could have done better to get her attention, to let her know that her skirt was in her pantyhose. And we just couldn't figure it out because, again, we don't know the right way to do this. Like, we scared her on just the hey.
But see, that's where it comes down to, see what I'm saying, how it's conflicting. Like, that's where it comes from our culture, because we're glorifying women objectifying themselves, which I'm all for, like, do it. But then we punish people like Robin Thicke or like Lola Bunny, right? So that's where it's at odds.
But this is the thing, Taylor, you're not punishing Robin Thicke. Not you.
They.
You made the decision to be on Playboy, and so you know what comes in. You know what comes with that, right? And it's just kind of like, what am I trying to say? You put yourself in a position. You have to be able to take the consequences. You have to be able to.
Well, why does there have to be consequences?
Well, not consequences, but you have to be able to take what is coming at you. You know what I mean? And whether or not it's good or bad.
Even say you go out here for a night. I know you have a man's, right? But even not even to the extent of being in Playboy, but even wearing like a hot bodycon dress, right? You're out with your girls at a bar, at the club, like that there, right there, like that's objectification. If a guy comes up to you, like, doesn't that feel good? You know what I'm saying?
If I'm wearing something low cut, and there is for me, when I go out, there are two sides. If I'm single, it's going to be like, hey, yeah, come hang out with me. Oh yeah, you can come and talk to me. But if, obviously I have a boyfriend, it's like, I wore this because I just really want to look nice. And for me, there are two different ways of, I don't want to say persona, but it's two different ways of confidence. If I come out, you know, knowing that I'm going to go in and I want that attention, that's how I'm going to walk into the room. You know what I mean? But if I'm like, you know, I know that if I come out, you know, guns a blazing, do I want to deal with, you know, what's going to come at me? It's a really two different sides.
It's a really weird dance, because I used to have that mindset where I used to live in New York City, right? And if a guy would catcall me, construction workers, whatever, I would flick them off. Or a guy at a bar, you know, if I'm looking at what you're saying, right, Kiyra, and someone would come hit on me, I'd kind of be a dick, right? And now I'm kind of like, okay, but to your point, Bobby, it's like, I feel like, just to play devil's advocate and give them the benefit of the doubt, they're like, okay, but we don't really know how to navigate, especially seeing stuff like this. And part of me wonders, like when the Lola Bunny thing happened, so many women were bummed, like, man, why you got to make her less of a girl? But I'm kind of like, did women ask for this because they also at the same time don't want that male attention? Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's a catch-22. It's like, oh, I'm appalled that you looked at me, but then hey, why is no one not looking at me? You know, it's what it is. It's the same thing, and it is a slippery sword, and it's the right way and the wrong way to do that. But still, at the certain fact, you can't have it both ways. And the narrative police and the cancel culture they strategically put it out there, and it gives you both ways. They try to have their cake and eat it too, and it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. We continue. It's going to get worse because now they're going to start picking and choosing. And the person that screams the loudest is a person like the double standard. When we watched the Harry and what's her name?
Megan.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Yeah. When we watched that.
What's her name?
Yeah. When we watched that whole thing, and they showed the side-by-side stories of like, well, the princess of this did that, and then the princess of that did this, and they had two different sides of the same story. That's, you know, especially with the avocado. With the avocado, it's like, oh, she's enjoying her food and being healthy, and the other one is like, you're cutting down forest and you're killing the trees and everything. And I was like, come on. It's the media again knows what they're doing. This is a planned attack. This is a planned attack on not only the culture, but a planned attack on people of color, and it's a planned attack on feminism. And for every argument, there's a counter argument. If I say, Kiyra, you can't go outside because if you do, you're going to get a suntan and get skin cancer. Now, for every side of that, you're gonna come back and go say, well, this person did it and they didn't get it. So the same thing, it works. I guess the same thing works for you in the cancel culture situation, meaning that you can't have it both ways. And if you do have it both ways, the people are going to bring exception to it, and it's just going to be more of a mess.
I feel like you have a final thought here before I pivot on the objectification stuff.
I do. And it's just, you know, I'm seeing things getting canceled left and right. And, you know, not to say that it's like one of those weird things where it's like, I don't pick and choose. You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever hopped on a bandwagon except when it's really racially charged and motivated. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just you know, we're all going to have to grow with the ebbs and flows of what our generation is going to put up or not put up with. You know what I mean?
Well, it's generational. It happens. It happened to your parents. I'm sure your mother, your sweet mother, you know, is probably had songs that she listened to that her parents thought were horrible.
Well, that's the thing. People are wondering, how far does this go? Because like a virgin at the time, everyone lost their shit, and now we'd be yawning, right? So I think that's another part of it, is like, well, how far does it go?
Rock and roll, same thing.
Exactly.
Rhythm and blues, jazz, you know, it goes back further and further and further. I remember what's that from Back to the Future, when he got up on stage and everything. I was like, that music's horrible. And it's like, but it was like,
right.
And it's so it goes on forever.
Well, let's talk about the double standard, because when I saw this at face value, I thought to myself, okay, we've been hearing dudes rap, sing, talk about their dicks and sex for years, right? Lil Wayne, Lollipop, 50 Cent, Magic Stick, even in rock, right? Shook Me All Night Long, Pour Some Sugar on Me. Yet I feel like if a woman, first of all, women are scrutinized more, and I hate the women victim card. Listeners of my show know that. However, to me, am I wrong? Women doing this, isn't that their way? Why can't women do it? Isn't that their way of doing the same thing?
Women have been doing it, but again, the industry has shut it down. I used to listen to not only my parents' old Richard Pryor and Red Fox records, but I would listen to Millie Jackson. Millie Jackson was the most foul-mouthed woman you ever want to hear in life. She had a song called "Fuck You," with the "Fuck You" Symphony. It was like, so her stuff was just as raunchy and everything else, but yet, again, the guys ride the cream rises, and when women say it, they're judged by it. But they still been doing it. There's been a lot of nastier rappers before Nicki, before all them. You got to look at even Lil' Kim stuff. You got to look at even Foxy Brown stuff. You know, Salt Pepper didn't really do it as much, but they still had, you know, they had more of a creative flow. And if it was nasty, it didn't hit you in the face. You know, so women have been doing it for forever and stuff like that. But when the industry pounces on you and they start poking at you, then it becomes an issue, and sometimes they just back off on it.
Kiyra?
I can only talk from a personal standpoint. I just feel that women should be able to do exactly what men do. You know what I mean? But, you know, it's how our current society is going, how they're going to ingest it and how they're going to take it. I am not, like I said, I'm way more to the left, and, you know, can appreciate and understand, you know, what artists are doing. And, you know, of course, there's going to be at a certain point, you know, when talking to Kennedy, I'm like, you know, how did this make you feel? Do you feel that it's appropriate or inappropriate? You know, letting her kind of be the judge of, you know, what she can take at the time. And, you know, obviously she's 11, but I would never be a person to say you are not, because you were a woman, you should not be able to do this. You know, I just can't, I just won't.
Bringing it back, okay, because, you know, like, we haven't even seen really, like, remember when the Video Vixen was such a thing? I used to work at VH1, and we did a whole I Love Video Vixen week, and I produced it, and we had the girls talk about their favorite guy Video Vixens, and the guys do their girl favorite, right? And now I feel like we're in a climate. This is kind of what I mean about before with the double standard and with sex objects, right? I feel like we would, I don't know. I feel like we wouldn't allow men to have those, like the Video Vixen, right? But we can allow this. So should, like, say the Robin Thicke's, right? Should men be allowed to objectify women in their art and do it too?
They still do. It's never stopped.
But not as much, I feel like. Look at like Whisper, Get Low, all that stuff.
I produced 2 music videos this weekend, and we clearly cast strippers and girls that were going to wear naked clothes for the sake of boosting the ratings of the music video. One video didn't have nothing to do with it. The second video talked all about it, but they both had the same purpose of putting these women in the video to get more views. That was the purpose of it. That was the purpose of casting. That's what they got paid for. They knew exactly what they were to do. They came in, took the clothes off, bounced the booty on stage, got their check, and left.
I feel like it's not as mainstream though. Like, didn't 50, and we have 4 minutes left, but didn't 50 Cent or what was it, Snoop Dogg, like kind of diss Cardi B for WAP?
He did. He actually, and he got in hot water for it, for the simple fact that he's had way more vile songs. But again, like you said, as you get older, then you start passing judgment. And
yes.
Everything else. And then you start looking at like as when I remember dancing on the floor and like to listen to songs like, oh, these songs are horrible. But yet I've said some outlandish stuff, you know, so it works. Like you said, like I think the fact that he's had kids now and he's a little bit more conservative base, but he got in trouble for it because then they brought up every Snoop Dogg lyric that objectified women in the history of Snoop Dogg, and it was too many to count.
That's Bobby, exactly what I was saying.
Really
That's exactly
quick,
what I was saying.
Really quick here, Bobby, when you were on set, were you objectifying the women?
No,
Bobby.
No. Let me say no. I didn't purposely do it, but then my AD said, You did. In other words, you said your camera position was a little bit too long on this one particular situation. I said, yeah, I wanted to make sure I got the shot. But you didn't want to make sure you got the shot in the last scene. I was like, so what are you trying to say? So yeah,
male gaze, right? But I'm like, what's so wrong with the male gaze? Like, if they want to look at us like we're hot, then so be it. Kier? Oh, Bobby?
You know what? I used to be offended by it when I was younger. And I think it was because I honestly didn't know how to feel about it. Like, I didn't know whether or not it in some instances, it really did feel like I was being objectified. And in other instances, you know, I would relish in it. It is honestly how I feel at the time. When somebody cat calls me now, you know, I'll just look and go, thanks, and just keep going. Now, if they end up taking it a little bit further where it makes me uncomfortable, then that's a whole other different situation. You know what I mean?
Let's even take it even further. With the
and we have 2 minutes, guys.
Sexual harassment is for ugly people across the board. I feel that everything else. Sexual harassment for ugly. If Flavor Flav said, "Oh my gosh, Taylor, you look so hot," you're going, you know what? You're like 2 minutes from hitting 911. But if Brad Pitt said, "Hey, Taylor," you like, "Oh, Brad, you're so silly."
That's a huge, of course.
So
really?
Then again, so what's the difference between shooting your shot and actually, being a creep?
It's subjective. It's totally subjective. Really quick before we wrap, I love what you guys said about like the narrative police. And it's true. Maybe we don't need to attach so much meaning to everything. Let art be art. Let some things just be what they will be, right? We don't have to attach a message to everything. Kier, you didn't get to answer. Do you think guys should be able to objectify women in their art and their, like, say the Robin Thicke example?
If I think that, that's a hard one for me to answer. It really is, because I wasn't offended by Robin Thicke. How's that? I really liked the song. I wasn't offended. Those girls chose to.
Did you know it was being objectification until someone told you? Did you even think of it?
No,
exactly.
I didn't. And I liked the song and I liked the video.
Rockstar guest, guys. Thank you. Maybe we can do part 2 another time. This was so fun. The time flew by. Bobby, next time you have a fun stripper set, invite me. I'm down.
Every weekend, Taylor. Every weekend.
Let's go. Guys, you rock. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.